You know me, I'm all for that. I'm all for ladies first in every area of life. Thank you very much.
Gentlemanly conduct is my what's the word looking for? MO.
Yes,
Modus
ladies
operandi.
always first in every area.
Yeah, my mind went, oops, I'll come back.
Okay, this is
Okay.
GoingSoloMedia.com, WGSN-DB's Going Solo Network Radio, TV, and podcast #1 internet singles top network. And this is Let's Talk About Dating with Christine Baumgartner and Barry Selby. Hi, Barry.
Hi, Christine.
So
Sorry.
today we're
Focus
talking
on something
about
else. Yes.
great topic, how to approach your first date.
Yeah.
And we have now come up with so many different levels for this because there are so many different levels that can happen from our coaching, our personal lives, our producer Cece's throwing some stuff in. So we're going to talk about how to talk to each other, what to say, what not to say, what would you like them to say, what would you like them not to say, how
What do you
soon
want to
to bring
do?
up
What you don't want
the
to do?
subject. Yes,
Lines you want to cross. Lines you don't want to cross. Boundaries. Yeah.
so many. And you and I have been on a number of first meetings with people. And so we have some personal stories too, I'm sure.
Some horror stories. Yes.
Yes. So if we started at just the basic, the question I am asked just as often about men and women by men and women is what to wear. And it really is the place to start because you want to, in whatever way it is, your best foot. You know,
Your first impression.
everything clean.
Yeah.
Take a shower, wash
Yes. Yeah.
your hair. It seems like such a basic thing to say, but we've heard enough stories and experienced a few that it's unless, like, I met one guy the first time. I said, if this is when you want to meet, I'm coming from horses. Just know
Right.
I'm going to smell a little bit like a horse. I'm going to have a baseball cap on. And he was perfectly fine with that. But I told him ahead of time.
Well, that's the thing. You've pre-qualified and set up the scenario so that way they know and they're not expecting you to show up in an evening gown.
Yes.
That's the part about how you approach your first date. It's also how do you preface and how do you communicate before that first date so you can arrive in a way that is conducive and is acceptable is too low a word. Appreciated is probably a better way of putting it. So the fact you told him was all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it was,
and the fact yes, it was great
the
too.
only time we could. So I was fine with it. He was fine with it. Yeah. So it was great. It was, and it, gives you a whole nother subject to talk about, which was fun. And then attire, clean, pressed, not dirty, not wrinkles, and not too much skin showing either person. Bored.
So you're saying no shorts for men, or do you mean something more than that?
Not a see-through shirt, not a shirt that's open, not a shirt that's unbuttoned down really far. I mean, you think I would only be talking about women, showing too much boob or too much leg or too much stomach. But I have found through my personal experience and the stories that sometimes, and I don't think generally, they're bad men or dumb men. They came comfortable. And that's just how they are comfortable dressing. And I guess it's good because now you know how they're comfortable dressing. But it doesn't feel like you were making an effort.
Right.
I want you to look like you've made an effort because we women notice all those annoying details. So especially, you're not going to notice all the details maybe as much as a guy, but we watch every detail. So pay attention. Pay attention that it's how you would go visit your favorite aunt or somebody that you admire or, not dressed up necessarily unless it's that atmosphere, but think about what you're wearing. Maybe not flip-flops, sandals, because we're having a heat wave right now. So sandals would be fine, but maybe a step up from flip-flops. I mean, just that kind of thought.
And of course, what we're talking about with dress code, that really is also in some ways location dependent because certain places, for example, like in New York, I think, and I've not been there so I don't know, but friends have told me, like, the dress code when you go on a date there is different from what it is in California, for example, or LA, particular. So these things we're suggesting, take with your own understanding where you live, because I don't think shorts in New York are as common as shorts in LA are, for example.
Yeah. No.
But the thing is also, and just to preface this as well about the first date thing, and I've talked about this in previous conversations, I have this thing, I think you're on the same page with me, about having a pre-date or a first date that is more informal first.
Yeah.
Just to get to know if you like each other first before you then go on a real first date, so to speak. So I think I want to just dance in between the two for a second, just to say that in a lot of ways, the first date isn't the formal date. It's the interview date. So someone says it's like an interview. So, well, it is in a way, because you may have texted somebody through an app and maybe you've had a quick phone call with them, but now you're meeting for the first time in real life, face to face, not screen to screen. And that's when you get to know somebody really, like your first impression is that moment. So again, dress code, as you said. So, but when you meet for something daytime, easy, relaxed, coffee, ice cream, whatever it is, that sort of thing, creates a place that lets you get to be comfortable and relaxed in your beingness when you're with the other person. So you're not there focusing on trying to be best behavior, which you might be if you went to a restaurant in the evening for a first date, for example. So having something more, being more present to that, so you can have a connection and conversation that then gives you the feeling that you can trust them to go on a real date, so to speak. And then on the first date, I mean, I tend to, I mean, it's hard to say because, again, LA, strange place. Growing in London was so different from this. But for me, like, yes, clean jeans. But, daytime meeting somebody might be sneakers, might be dress shoes, depending on how I feel. But also, and this is my pet peeve, unless your feet are in good shape, don't wear open-toe shoes, men or women. Present that way. Because the thing is, also, I know for ladies, they're getting prepared is a whole different process than it is for men.
Yeah.
So understanding the effort you put in, and like you were saying, coming from horses, it's like, if that's the truth, I have no problem with that, because I know if you didn't, you put a whole lot more effort into being ready, because there's a whole requirement. The makeup, the hair, the jewelry, the accessories, everything, matches, shoes, all that stuff. Exactly. Yeah, thank you. I forgot about that detail. Don't wear it myself. But that's the thing. For me, I know for men, it's like, I'm a jeans, clean underwear, clean socks, decent shirt, and maybe a jacket. And that's about it. And it's interesting for me because I've had a few of them I recommend as the pre-dates with different people, over starting again now the pandemic has got settled down enough where we can go out and actually have meetings with people. Before the pandemic, I did a few first dates. And yes, because they were outdoors, I did wear a baseball cap because I don't have sunblock, natural or otherwise. So I have to dress to match that, because to me, a dress shirt and a baseball cap doesn't go together. So it's like, I've got to wear something more relaxed. But I'm also clear that we're doing this as again, informal pre-date interview type thing to get to know if we want to go out on a formal date.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, now bring out the good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. It only goes up from there.
Right.
And one of the things you mentioned that I do say to people is, in your head and in your speech, talk about how it's your first meeting, because date just in our heads, no matter if you're doing the exact same thing, if you're meeting for coffee or a first date for coffee, it just elevates the nerves and the challenging side of a first meeting. So I've had them, and I have one that she's so cute, she calls every one of them a meet and greet, which is adorable. She does it with such a big smile and this really positive energy. And I go, because she says that's what every time she talks about what she's going to be doing. Oh, I'm going to a meet and greet with a new person. And I love that about it, because it kept her feeling on a much more even keel about it.
Yeah. And she's present, and she's looking at it with a positive focus. But frankly, ladies, gents, anybody watching this, when you go on this interview, meet and greet, first date, pre-date, we don't call it, if you're going there with dread in your heart, you aren't going to look particularly attractive.
No.
So what your client and friend said about making it a meet and greet, there's something very lighthearted about that. Frankly, that's a great energy to bring when you go on your first date. So how to approach your first date is the emotional piece, is come with the intention to enjoy yourself and to be happy without conditions or attachments. It's a big piece of it as well, by the way.
Very big.
So the emotional piece is how you prepare yourself. So yes, prepare yourself physically, how you dress and how you wash and how you present. But also there's an emotional piece about how you feel and what you bring emotionally speaking to that first meeting, that meet and greet.
And that what I tell people, the most achievable goals you can reach at your first meeting is guaranteed every time I learn something about me. Every time. I have not walked away from one first meeting not reaffirming, wow, I knew that about me. Wow, that was a new question. I'd not really thought about that answer. You know, you can't just push the button because I've answered that question 12,000 times. I had to really think, what did I think about that? And then guaranteed you're learning about a new person because you really don't know much about them. I mean, maybe you've had a conversation and a couple emails and you've read, if you're doing online dating, their profile, but now you're going to learn more about them. And if you say that's enough, there could be more bonus, but that's enough, you will always walk away feeling like a success no matter what.
Right.
Which is what keeps the discouraging part from happening. When you go, oh, it didn't work out, or oh, they didn't like me, or I didn't like them. That's not the goal. The goal is, would you like to see them a second time? Each of you get to decide that. I mean, you still have the other person to consider, but would you like to see them? Now, what you've learned about you, how you feel of being with them, and what you've learned about them, how you feel about them as a person, do you want to spend more time with them? Yes or no? I mean, it's pretty easy to answer if you look at it with that level of emotionality and not, this is my future forever spouse, because that just sets you up that even if it is, you're not necessarily going to know that the first time out.
Oh, it's, I mean, this is the thing too, is that I know it's funny, I've had a couple of my email subscribers respond back to a couple of my emails I sent out replays. And when one writes back and says, I've given up. And I'm like, so I emailed her back saying, like, you care to explain what's going on? I haven't heard back from you yet. But the thing is that if you go into a first date with that energy, like this is the last time or the last chance, or I've given up, the energy you bring, even if you've got a smile on your face, which will be kind of a false smile, the feeling you're going to exude that you're going to coach your date with is going to be pretty negative. Mm-hmm. So definitely, as you said, I love that about bringing forward the fact that there'll be something valuable you get from the experience. Mm-hmm. So it's almost like being a like a gift detector, mm-hmm. in a way, like seeking like where's the gift in this conversation? Not like a gold digger. That's a whole different topic. but being the sense of being on the hunt or the focus of like, what's the good stuff that's going to happen here? If you bring that mindset, you're looking for the good, mm-hmm. you'll get it anyway. It doesn't matter mm-hmm. what the other person does or doesn't do, because you'll walk away, even if nothing works out or it's horrible, and you walk away, you go, I got to enjoy myself. Mm-hmm. As you said, I got to learn about myself more. So definitely a smart way to bring yourself into that first day, how to approach it in that way.
And I'm learning every coffee place in my area and whose coffee I like the best. It's been like a whole sampling, which is a whole extra bonus that I never even thought of. It's been kind of fun. Who makes better iced coffee? Who makes better hot coffee? That's been fun too, because there's a lot, because I live in a college town. So there's a lot of coffee places, and I'm exploring all of them with my first meetings. It's pretty fun. So then,
go ahead. Sorry. No, I have a few regulars that I know well because they're local to me. But anyway, you were saying.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, if you're going to go, you have to really have some good coffee, because you don't want to be disappointed in the coffee. And I have control over that now.
Yeah. You may be disappointed in your partner, but at least you'll be happy about the coffee.
You'll be happy about the coffee. I know the places that give refills of fancy coffee. Ooh. So the next level is, what are you going to talk about? Mm. And oh my goodness, we need to really, I have a thing of the best and worst things you could do on a first date. And it talks on my website, it talks a little bit about what to say and not to say, because the benign conversations that come out when you don't know better and you might not be very prepared, you're a smart person and you can talk a lot about what you know, but most people don't know about dating, even though we sometimes think we should just know.
Yeah.
The best resource is their profile. Hopefully they've written something about what they're interested in, what they like doing, that it gives you a chance to have a couple crib notes and then you read them before you go in, so that you like, there's 3 things I'm going to ask them about them, and there's 3 things I need to know for me. Because don't we all want to feel a little prepared? Because you're meeting a new person in a new place, you're going to feel a little bit like a different person for you. So this is a nice grounding place to come from, where I got some instructions, I've got some directions, I can do this way. And I find that I feel more relaxed with these notes in my head. And the conversation will flow or it won't, but this gives it like a kickstart.
Yeah.
If they have a dog, or you've seen them fishing, or they are into cars, or I'm talking to one guy that's does interesting investing that I'd never heard of before. So that's been really fun to learn about, because I know nothing about that
Right.
kind of stuff. And he's really explaining it. I'm learning as an engineer. He's really explaining, though, in ways I can understand. So because I read that on his profile, I've asked him about that. So that is one of the ways to use that as a great resource.
Absolutely. I mean, quite a few of the women I've been finding on dating apps are ones that like to travel, which is one reason I'm happy to meet them, because it's hard to date somebody who doesn't have a passport or hasn't visited anywhere beyond 5 miles of where they're born and raised. One of my list of requirements. So when I found out somebody's been to a country that I haven't been to, or a place that I haven't been to, it's like, tell me about it. I'd love to know more about what your view of that experience was. How was it traveling to this place? So definitely finding things about them that you want to explore more, because ideally, yes, they put some valuable content in there, maybe like a stem sentence, or so to speak, in their profile, so you can ask more about it. But they won't put the whole story in there. Just a little thing about been to this place, or done this thing, or you swam with dolphins, or whatever it was. Like, tell me about that. I want to know. I haven't been. Tell me about that. I remember there's one profile we haven't connected yet, but she put a profile now. She loves doing new things, except perhaps skydiving. And I have been skydiving, so we can talk about that. In this side of the fence. So I love the fact we can find these ways of interacting and dovetailing with the other person, so there's a sense of we can bring value to the conversation. Because to ask, like, how are you, what do you think of the politics, and do you want kids, or have you, that becomes a very confining conversation. Because there is, of course, there's the 36 questions to have somebody fall in love with you, that list. I wouldn't necessarily use that questionnaire, because it's a whole different thing, but there's a few questions you could take out of that'd be very useful to have. Like, for example, if you had dinner with anybody alive or dead, who would you have dinner with? And then why? So you could learn about somebody's viewpoints, because there might be somebody who's a great author, or a great speaker, or somebody whose bio is amazing. So it's like these great little seeds that they plant in their profiles, or that you can use as a resource to bring to the conversation. Don't come empty-handed, so to speak. Have things in your awareness, like you said, a crib sheet, or some questions that you are aware of from their profile before you walk in the room or into the space. Makes things so much easier to. It's like you have kindling for the fire.
And everyone wants to be able to talk about themselves. Everyone wants to have the other person at least seem like they're interested in them as a person and things that they're interested in. So especially if you come prepared with things from their profile. So mine, I've had people say, what do you volunteer? And I said, it's equine therapy. Do you know what that is? And there's been a couple, but the ones who don't are fascinated to learn about it. So that's, and then, have you been around horses? Do you know anybody with special needs, and what's been your experience? And so that is a whole nother topic that, not necessarily everybody else would talk about, but it's a place dear to my heart. And most everybody has had some good, bad story with a horse, some challenging young person in their life. So that's been a really easy thing to talk about. And it's not, how many people have you gone out with? Why are you still single? So those are the questions you don't ask. Don't ask. Now, I did meet a guy last weekend, and he said, he had asked me already, what did I think about what was happening with me on the dating site, or so. I can't remember how I asked it, but I found it annoying. And it's like 3 people had asked me the same question before. But now I have them in front of me, and I said, so would you ask me that question again and elaborate what you really want to know? Because I really want to understand so I can answer the question. And he's like, yeah, I could tell I had irritated you a little. And I said, I want to see if I'm misunderstanding. So I don't know that everybody feels this way as he did. And I liked his answer about, I said, so, and tell me what your experience has been. And, the liars and the scammers and the women that have asked for money. And I said, oh, you wanted to know if I'd had scammers. That's such a good question because that is a hard experience for people. So yes, of course. Because I've looked at profiles for so long for me and my clients that I recognize them right away. And typically women don't get asked as frequently. We do get asked for money, but not as frequently. And wow, that is hard for a guy. And so this bizarre kind of offbeat conversation again ended up being a good food for thought. And how long have you been on the site and how comfortable is it for you? And so I felt like I kind of helped him adjust his question. Turns out I'm not interested in seeing him a second time for a bunch of reasons. And yet there I was learning something. Okay, now I'm going to ask, gosh, tell me more about what you want to know so I can give you an accurate answer rather than just going, this is a dumb question. Because that's how I was feeling initially, that it was just a dumb question.
Oh, yeah. Well,
it's kind of a nosy question and no work behind it.
Well, no, the thing was that you were saying about how you've been asked that question several times. The thing we have to remember when we go on these first dates is this person probably doesn't know any of the questions we've been asked before. No. So if they may ask the same question again, that's them asking for the first time. Even if we heard it 17 times, it's okay to be not jaundiced about it and go, not this question again.
All right, Coach Barry, I took note of that. Thank you very much.
I'm talking to myself as well, just to be clear. Anyway, I think it's time for a break.
I talked myself off that cliff a couple of times, and I appreciate hearing it from you too. We coaches have to coach ourselves all the time.
And support each other as well, absolutely.
Yes.
So we'll talk more about approaching your first date when we come back from this break, and then we'll go into a bit more detail. So we'll see you back in a moment.
And we're back talking about handle how to handle our very first date.
How to approach, in fact. Yes.
How to approach it. Yes. How to approach our first date.
Yes.
So the other thing, the biggest complaint I hear from men is, all she did was ask questions and I just kept having to talk all the time and I didn't learn anything about her. And conversely, from women, I hear, all he did was talk and tell me about himself. And he didn't ask me one question about me. I know. It's so sad and unnecessary. So what
It's
I
almost
tell
like
people,
it's like almost like political debate. You need somebody who's on the monitor saying, "Your time is up. Your time is up."
yes, you need that. I've teased people I should go on their dates with them and help them out. We do mock dates with men a lot. It's very helpful for them because then they feel like, oh, I now know how to do this. I said,
Good.
think of it as a tennis match. You hit the ball over and the other person hits it back. Now, not everybody knows how to do that smoothly. So from each side, I have a hint. So for men, my best hint for them is when we ask you a question, like, what kind of traveling do you like to do? Where's your favorite place to go? Once you answer it, ask us the same question back because we are waiting for you to ask us. And
Yeah.
we have an answer. We've thought about it ahead of time when we thought about asking you that question. So we feed you the questions. You just don't know that. And we are that will make us feel, oh, he cares. Oh, he's interested. Oh, he really wants to learn about me. And then for women, when you ask a guy a question about where was your favorite place to go traveling, and he answers you, you say, wow, that's really interesting. And maybe you have a follow-up question, then stop and say, this is my favorite place to go, and this is why I liked it, or this is where I want to go next. And he will be relieved to wait and not have to talk all the time. And he'll be interested in learning about you. So for the advanced people, what I say is, this is what I like about traveling and where I was, and tell me what your, a more elaborate sentence. And this is
Right. Yeah.
my question about you for you. So I know how to keep the ball in the air. And it's so fun when I have a guy that likes to do it too, that he's just as good about asking a question and then answering it. Oh, I'm supposed to meet one of those next week. We've had a couple very fun phone calls, and I just go, this, capital T, this is what I'm looking for. I don't know that it's him, but I go, this is the thing. I like this thing. So if you both know that it's your responsibility to tell the other person about you and to find out about them, and this is also where you learn about you. How comfortable was I doing that? Wow, what things did I need to talk about me? It couldn't just be all interviewing questions of them. I need to share personal things about, the way I travel, because I'm the one that gets her suitcase out 3 days in advance. And I like having some reservations where I'm going. And when I found out that my late husband could pack in 15 minutes and likes doing everything spontaneous, it was good to have a conversation about it because our vacations were a combination of both things. So but it was only because I'd revealed this is who I am and what I like. So that's how you keep the tennis ball going. And boy, when you both leave, whether you want a second date or not, it feels so much more satisfying because you found out about them and they found out about you.
That's key. I mean, the idea of the time you spend together is get to know each other a bit better. So if you don't know how to do that part, why are you on the date? Let's just say this. It isn't just about finding out if you have sex with each other. Because for some people, that's their mindset. They're just going in as like, I don't care about what they talk about. I don't want to tell about me. I just want to know if they're physically great to sleep with.
Yep.
Don't do that. It's such a poor attitude. And frankly, I mean, okay. There are some people who use the apps just for someone to sleep with. And if that's what they're in for, let the person know before you meet them that's what you're looking for. So you give them the break because they're not looking for the same thing as you are. Spare them the details, spare them the grossness of that.
Yeah.
You know?
No pictures, no naked pictures.
Oh, no. Again, you said, cover yourself up, no skin. The second thing we talked to, though, I actually want to just shift the gear slightly, is also, and I mentioned this a little bit about how you come into the date with what you feel about the date, is, and we talked this a lot before, both of us have, about do your inner work first. If you're going on the date because you just broke up with somebody 3 weeks ago and you haven't done anything about it since then, you may not be in the best place to go on that date. So the best way to approach that first date is don't do it. Spend some time to really digest, process, work through, heal, resolve come to terms with, make peace with what happened before. Because the things what happen is if you go on that first date, they're going to become your therapist without even realizing it. And that's not their job. I mean, our job maybe, but not their job.
Well, certainly not our job on a date either. That's the thing.
Thank you. Exactly. Yes, you're right. So, because that's the thing. I mean, I you know, having been on dates with women who had gone through a recent breakup has been educational for me. But the thing is, being in the business I'm in, going on the dates, I'm like, you know what? Let me just shift gears. Here's my calendar. Let's get on a schedule, and you can hire me to coach you if you want that. If we're on the date, let's shift the energy and the focus on what we're talking about. So that's a key piece too, because I think so many people have not chosen after they go through a breakup to do anything about it except to let it just become numb and just to let it subside and pretend it's all okay and move forward to the next one. And to be honest, I think there's a lot of walking wounded out there on dates because they haven't done any sort of internal realignment, inventory, healing, transformation, any of that sort of stuff. And if I had the money to buy billboard signs all over town, I'd say, like, do your inner healing first before you go on that first date.
Yeah. And I don't want to be a coach when I'm meeting somebody new.
Absolutely.
I want to just be a woman and see how I feel about sitting across the table from a man. And that's been part of the other thing that I have a friend that's a therapist, and I said, do you have problems with people saying they're intimidated? She goes, I tell them I'm an elementary school teacher.
Smart move. There's a parallel there too.
I've still even telling them I'm a dating and relationship coach, and they all, most of them, explain to me that it's intimidating to them. So this one that I'm going to meet next week. So I said, tell me more about the intimidating. I really want to understand where it comes from for me. So here I am getting to learn before I've even met him more about me.
Right.
And what he said was, and it's a little bit because of some experiences in the past, that I would be extra judgmental, extra analytical, extra critical, extra more rigid in what I need and want. And I said, oh, well, yeah, I could see why somebody who wasn't a coach, or at least a good aware coach, would think that. And that's really valid. And you won't know till you meet me, but I will tell you that's exactly why I'm so much nicer to go out with, because I get guys and I give you lots of grace and I go, oh, that's why he does that. I don't misunderstand generally. I don't miscommunicate regularly. I'm not sure I told you this because I told somebody else the other day. I said, I just blurted out that I'm user friendly. And I decided that that's what I'm going to say now.
I love that.
Because I am. I mean, once guys meet me, they're like, wow, you're so easy to talk to. And wow, you ask really interesting questions. And wow, you give really honest answers. And I mean, and I am exactly what you see is what you get. So when they get past, if they can get past the intimidation part, then it's really turns out as well as I think it will on their side. But it is a hurdle that I'm continually having to address. So, okay, I'm learning even better ways to address it. And it might come up for you too because of your profession. And you only coach women and you're only dating women. So there you go.
So just I was definitely nodding along as you were talking about that because in my profile I don't hide the fact that's what I do, and I've said in my profile what I'm looking for is someone who's done her own work. So when we meet, we're on the same page. Because just to be transparent, you know, when someone has done a lot of internal development work, processing work, and become more whole, and they feel a lot of the emotional baggage and past wounds, when they meet somebody else who hasn't done that, it can be very uneven. So it's not necessarily about what I'm saying, you know, what I must have. It's just about respecting that if you are somebody who's done your own work, you want to meet someone who's done their own work too, just to be fair. And so part of me being in the role I'm in, I've done a lot of work to take care of this in a way that is healthy and whole, emotionally speaking. Yeah, I've got more physical work to do, you know, but in terms of the internal processing, my emotional comfort is much stronger probably than a lot of other men. And if I just meet a woman who's maybe even shut down, I'm talking about past relationships now, who was kind of shut down, it wouldn't last that long because they'll be missing each other. So in a way, being upfront, saying this is what I'm about, what I'm focused on, what I'm really say educated on is more about, but experienced about. I can really help with this area in my work. Meeting somebody who comes up and is intimidated, that may be just recognizing they don't have that yet in their own toolkit. So it is this dance, and that's the thing about being in the single scene, knowing what we know. It's like it can be dangerous, and it can also be wonderful. It's just a matter of which side we play on and what other people think of us.
Fascinating. Yep. I tend to pick professions that can be intimidating to men, and it turns out they're not intimidated by me once they meet me, but they are initially concerned.
That's the thing. It's that getting past the first date or past the first connection. Yeah.
And you had brought up earlier, yes, there are people that are just looking for hookups or friends with benefits. And if that's not what you're specifically looking for, and you haven't had that conversation with the other person, please, neither one of you talk about sex on the first date. Right. Please. It's off-putting to the majority of women. Even a joke, even an innuendo. Just let's get past the first initial meeting. You like each other enough to see each other again. You know, maybe they'll be flirting the second time. But I think it's essential from a woman's point of view, from my personal and all the women that I talk to, leave it aside. If it's something that's important to you, you can bring it up later. But we're not even going to have the conversation with you if we don't feel comfortable. And that it can be so off-putting.
Right.
I mean, I am somebody, you all know, I'm very comfortable talking about sex all the time with almost everybody. But I don't want to talk about it on the first meeting. I don't.
Right.
I want to feel their respect. I want to feel that they want to get to know me out here first. So, yeah, I mean, I'm the first candidate to say, I'm fine talking about it, not right away. Just not right away.
Which you said, like, you know, your friend called it the meet and greet. That doesn't include sex in the conversation. No. And so, again, especially my point of view about meeting somebody in a more of an, not so much interview, but a first contact experience, to use that term, where it is informal, is relaxed. It's like then when you go on a romantic date, that's when the directionality towards that is in the picture. It's not necessarily in the conversation. So it could be the second, third, fourth date before you even talk about it. And that's okay. Because frankly, isn't it better to fall in love with who they are and who their mind is before you think about getting in bed with them? I mean,
I think so.
Ideally.
Yes.
I mean,
makes it better. That's what makes it better. When you start feeling open and receptive and caring and important, I mean, it's the best then. And otherwise, it's just surface. I mean, it's great, fun little orgasm, but it's not a relationship building.
Right.
Yeah. I want it to be part of my relationship, not instead
of. Yeah, that either or doesn't work.
Doesn't work for me.
Yeah, and that's the thing is really understanding that. I mean, for us men, I know I'm betraying all the men by saying, you know, don't look at sex first, because I know we're wired that way.
You're allowed to think it. I'm okay if you think it.
That's the thing. I want to make sure we get clear for all the men listening to this. We can keep thinking it. Just don't let it come out of their mouth.
No saying. Just thinking.
Not in that picture. Really. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's ability to hold an adult, mature, and G-rated conversation. Maybe R-rated. I'm not sure, but have a healthy conversation.
Could be kind of grown up.
Yeah, that doesn't put a whole onus on that positioning in the relationship. Because frankly, if you're gonna have a relationship with somebody and you want to build there, then build the foundation first, because it's like sex is part of the package, but sex is part of that inclusive, wonderful experience called relationship, ideally. So you don't need to bring up that early. Take your time.
So I hope you're thinking it, because I want you to be interested. I just don't want you to tell me right away.
Right. And frankly, sometimes it's even in the way the eyes look at each other and the connection, and maybe even the holding hands. There's the underlying sexual tension that can build, which can be so much fun to play with. That's called foreplay.
So much fun.
Foreplay can last 3-4 months.
Oh yeah, so fun. Yeah. So the other two things I think we have to address before we are done are, what if you don't want to see him a second time or a third time? And then what if you just decide you don't want to see him at all? So how do you say, gosh, it's been nice, but, and I say, there's just not going to be a second date. And this last one that I met over the weekend, he just kept feeding me so much information. And I kept thinking, would I ask this question if I was just me? And I would. So I kept asking, because there was such a pattern of the women that he had been with. And it didn't come up as much in our 2 phone conversations, and how it was all them. And so the questions that I would ask, and he finally went, oh gosh, maybe I do need to look at that. I said, yeah, I think so. I think that would be really great, because it's the kind of introspective questions I ask myself. And I said, so the good news is, look at, you have a woman in front of you that's done work so that that wouldn't happen. And sorry, the bad news is I won't be seeing you again, because you now see the work you need to do. And he took that really well. I was really proud of him. And maybe I just was a little coachy, but I felt like I have the background to say it in the nicest, most positive way for him.
Yeah, for me, that's the thing, is that I have to be honest, and have to. It's really the clarity is that, I can still be honest and be nice versus being nice and be blunt. And just to speak to the same places. For me, it's this: if I got somebody, and one of my skills and curses is that I can see people's patterns pretty easily. It is
the good news, bad news, both of us.
Exactly. For my clients, it's awesome, but for my dates, it's not. So to not do that to them, but to say, I'm very aware that we are on different pages at this point in time, and nothing right, wrong, but either one. And I just appreciate the time we spent together, enjoyed our time, but I'm not sure looking, not planning to do it a second time or a third time, whatever that is. So, as I said before, oftentimes, sometimes the best policy is honesty. When all else fails, try being honest. Yeah. So
honest and kind.
Yes. Doesn't have to be hard when you're being honest.
So see, we both tell them the truth in the nicest way. And when I've said it to other gentlemen of, I found them interesting, and I think I could see them again as friends, but I really know, because of the things I've heard and observed, that it's certainly never going to be more. Some of them ask why, and lots of them don't ask why, which I'm so fine. And I'm happy to tell them why, but I'm sometimes kind of relieved not to, because I don't know that they seem perfectly fine as they are. So I don't want to tell them to be different. They would just need to be different for me.
Right. And the thing is, just to speak from the other side of it, is I have had quite a few women, just to be transparent, who didn't want to go on another second date with me.
Yeah.
Because I think in a way I scare them, to be honest. But it's also, but frankly, for me, the biggest thing I can do, not saying like as a hero or anything, but the best thing I do is be okay with that. Don't judge them, don't pursue them, don't, because there are men out there who get really arrogant. It's like, how dare you, say no, sort of thing. I just want to support them and say, I appreciate you letting me know, and being honest with that, because that to me is healthy, because it frees them up to enjoy their next date. I hope. And I'm actually grateful that it doesn't work out. So it works.
And I mean, if you have a legitimate health reason, or a kid got sick, or your car broke or something, then cancel, then set another one. Don't use that as an excuse not to go. If you're not going to go, then say, I've changed my mind. I've changed my mind. I'm not going to meet you. Sorry. But at least say. That's one of the hardest things, is to have somebody just disappear.
Yeah.
It's really hard on people. Both men and women are both complain about it.
Yeah, there's not one gender doing it, the other gender is both. So stop doing that, people.
It's an equal opportunity painful point.
Yes.
Because it's hard for the receiver. It's really hard.
Again, be honest. If you got an issue that's in the way, but as you said, this is the thing we'll just say, I'm going to wrap up, is the fact that when you do cancel, or you do have a problem, immediately reschedule. If you got an emergency you can't take care of, say, I'll call you tomorrow, or I'll text you next 2 days to schedule next time. So at least you schedule your next time to schedule.
Yeah.
So that way, at least that way they know you haven't deserted them. That's respectful.
Yes.
So honesty, respect, key things. Yes.
And it's not just respectful for them. You're being a respectful person.
Yes.
Don't carry that energy around about being a jerk, because it's a jerky thing to do to not tell.
Yeah.
Be brave.
Absolutely.
Put on your Wonder Woman boots, woman, and your fancy dingle. What are those Oxford, the kinds with the little dingly ties on them that are fancy for men?
Oh shoot, not penny loafers. Brogues. No.
Put on your fancy shoes, men, and step up and be brave and say, "I can't." Okay, so
all right. Yes.
If you are going on a first date and you want to know, or first meeting, and you want to know how to do it better, or you've gone on a bunch and they haven't turned out very well at all, Barry and I, as you hear, have lots of more suggestions even than you've heard today, because this is always just the hors d'oeuvres. There's always lots more meat and potatoes kind of stuff. We have lots of entrees that we give people, right?
Yep.
So the way to reach me is through either my website, which is www.theperfectcatch.com. You can sign up for a complimentary conversation with me by clicking on what's holding you back from love. And we can have a personal, private conversation about the challenges that you're finding. Maybe you're not getting second dates, or you haven't found anybody you'd want to have a second date with. You can also send me a personal email at christine@theperfectcatch.com. You can read my sign up for my newsletter, watch my videos, read my opinions on my Facebook page, on LinkedIn, Pinterest, Twitter. God, I need to write these down because now I'm forgetting even more.
Facebook, Instagram, YouTube.
Thank you, Barry.
You're welcome.
How do they find you?
So to make it very easy, all my social media except for Instagram is my name, and so is my website. So my website, which is barryselby.com, on the front page of that, or the home page of that, you can click on the top icon, which I think says Let's Connect, or it says Take Your First Step or Next Step. That can sign you up for a discovery session with me, so we can talk about where you are and what your dating experience has been like, and if you want to change it, we can talk about that. At the bottom of that page, also enjoy my email list, which will definitely get you into my ongoing weekly support emails. I send it to everybody on my email list, that what we're up to, what we're doing, and also some of these replays. You can email me directly at barryselby.com. As I mentioned, all my social media except for Instagram is Barry Selby. So YouTube, where there's 1,300 videos at least on there now, you can definitely peruse that library, keep yourself busy for a few months for free. I even have a Patreon page where you can sign up for a free question, get your questions answered for a minimal fee, which is patreon.com/Barry Selby. So Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Pinterest, Clubhouse, especially a busy one, is Barry Selby. And then on Instagram, the one different one is the real Barry Selby, because my original account got hacked. So definitely follow me there, because I post a lot of useful, provocative, I would say, memes and ideas that get you thinking. So
for sure,
we can't get support from either one of us.
Yeah. And we will be back next week at 1 o'clock Pacific and 4 o'clock Eastern, and all the times in between, with another juicy, helpful, informative talk about dating.
Entertaining too, hopefully.
We entertain ourselves, right?
Well, we do that, yes.
Yes. I'm sure everybody else is entertained.
So that will see you next week.
Okay. Bye for now.